So literally in 4 days, he turns this thing from a $2,000 piece of junk into the coolest looking off-roader I have ever seen. So the premise of Car Trek 6 was that each of us had to construct the perfect 3-car dream garage with a total budget of $30,000. We had to start with a sports car, then have a luxury family sedan, and an off-roader. And I was representing Germany, so I began with a Porsche 911, a 996, 1999 that I talked about in a video last week. And we've now released all of the episodes of Car Trek 6 on Tavares's channel, so I hope that you had a very Merry Christmas, and I hope that you have enjoyed the series. Please let us know in the comments what you think we could do better, what you think we could do worse, and so we really appreciate all the feedback we could get. But after kind of cementing the 996 as the sports car, the logical choice for the sedan was the S55, which I already had laying around. I'd paid $2,800 for an S55 AMG with the plan to shoot it off a cliff in Alaska on the 4th of July. Avalon King had sponsored that, and we had coated half of the car with their coating to test to see if it would protect a car from landing at the bottom of a cliff. We never expected that to go all that well, but we were really excited to make that road trip. But for the past 2 4ths of July, we have been unable to drive through Canada to get to Alaska. So that car lived to die another day, and Car Trek seemed like the perfect use for it. Now, in the purest sense, if I was spending $30,000 on a dream garage, honestly, I would spend a lot of money on the sedan, and I probably would have gotten a newer S55 or even an S65, but this car was here, it was the perfect thing to use, and it left a pretty strong budget for my off-roader. Now, I don't do a lot of off-roading. I used to when I was younger, but I think it's a cool thing. It's just one of those things that I haven't had a whole lot of time for, messing with all the sports cars lately. And so the idea of building up a proper off-roader was something very, very exciting. And I had gotten to know Bryson Richards. He's appeared several times. He does a lot of painting for the RWB cars, for Lee Keen's Safari Project cars. And one time when I was going there to pick up my 993, because he's done some work on that car for me and on the roof, I saw that he was building a Porsche 955 Cayenne to be this like overlanding beast. And it was amazing looking. He painted it kind of like Mexico blue, spectacular looking car. And it's one of those things that as soon as you see it, you're like, I've got to have one of those. And so when this came up, I was like, a really, really cool Cayenne makes sense as the next off-roader. Porsche, AMG Porsche, sounds like a great German car lineup. And so we kind of set out to look. And my initial thought was obviously that I'll get a GTS. I like the GTS. It's got the air suspension that climbs like 6 inches on each corner. Amazing. And they come in a cool orange color. So I started to make some offers, but then in talking to Bryson about what we might do once I got it, he's like, man, you really want a steel spring car. If you look at the 957s, which is like the 2008 to 2010 cars, those are really, really good. Just get an S with the V8. So I got a call from Cameron Davis of DC Motor Works. He's a local guy, great Mercedes mechanic. He'd in fact done a lot of work on my S55, just making it road ready enough and also helping me to understand all 12,000 whatever dollars of things that were actually wrong with the car. And so he told me that he had just bought a 2008 Cayenne for $2,000. And he wasn't really sure that he wanted it. He just thought it was a really good deal. And it didn't have a title. And so he was in the process of trying to track some stuff down. I helped him with some data that we had from VINwiki to find out where the car had been, because he just bought it on Facebook Marketplace, one of the sites that Autotipus now allows you to search. And he had gotten a really good deal on it, but he didn't have a title. We talked about bonded titles and everything else that he might need to do. And so he ended up spending about $3,500 on a new transfer case, drive shaft, coils, all the things that Cayennes just destroy. And so he had made it pretty road ready, but it was a 2008 Porsche Cayenne S that smelled like Rob Pitts had been smoking cigarettes in it for a decade. But regardless, it was cheap. It was kind of perfect because it left me a lot of modification budget. Now, I don't usually spend a lot of money modifying cars. So I called Bryson and I said, look, I've got this one. It sounds like what you were asking for. It's not as nice as maybe we would have liked to have started with, but we have some room. So he tells me what I need to go shopping for, these tires, these wheels, this lift, this roof rack, these lights, just to make the thing look and perform awesomely well. And through his connections with 380 Industries, we got in touch with the people at Forge Motorsport Overland. And so they helped out with a lot of the parts and the expertise because they go out with the Bryson all the time in their Touaregs and the Cayennes that they've helped produce. And it's just amazing to see what these things are capable of. And so I didn't really know what to expect. Quite honestly, we had about 4 days to put this thing together, and I asked Bryson if he would paint it. His reputation is obviously as being a painter. It's one of his primary skills and expertises. He's got fabricators and everybody, and he does a lot of the work himself there, but he's a great painter. And I was like, look, if I paint this thing orange the way I want it to, it's gonna be with a rattle can in the backyard. It's gonna come out looking like the cheap LP 550 Gallardo. If you paint it, even if it's in the backyard, we won't have to say that you did it, but it'll look a whole lot better, and I'd love the thing to be orange. It'll show up a whole lot better wherever we take it off-road. And so he's like, you know what, we'll figure something out. So literally in 4 days, he turns this thing from a $2,000 piece of junk into the coolest looking off-roader I have ever seen. I go to pick the car up and I am just amazed. It is everything I ever dreamt of. Honestly, my immediate regret was that I hadn't started with a much nicer Cayenne and just pretended that it was the $2,000 car. So I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And so I go out. I really don't get to drive it much at all because we have like a few hours before the truck's gonna get here to pick up all the cars and ship them out to Kansas for the start of Car Trek. Now, I'd also talked to Avalon King about how much it would keep like trail striping, like scratches, and their ceramic coating might keep the dust off that we'd obviously seen with the 993. So I was gonna do a quick Avalon King DIY ceramic coating on the fresh paint once I got home, and I have to say it worked great. We really had a hard time making the car look terribly dirty, even though we drove it all over the place. But we did drive it everywhere. We caught ourselves in the middle of a blizzard in the first snow in Breckenridge, Colorado, and it was just an awesome trip. I always loved the Car Trek trips, but this one was definitely the craziest one that we've done. And so if you haven't seen, in particular, those last 2 episodes where we focus on the off-roaders, please do check them out and let us know what you think. Now, when we got the cars back home, honestly, I didn't want to sell the Cayenne at all, but I was listing all my cars for sale with asking prices sort of based on that desirability so that I could buy something that was really, really crazy. And I'm still not 100% there yet, but I will have some information for you in a few weeks to update you on that. And so I called Bryson at 380 Industries, and he builds all these as like, you know, some of them up to $100,000 commissions for these cars. But, you know, we'd spent, give or take, like $10,000 between fixing it and making it nice and looking cool and all that. So I'd still stayed under my $30,000 total budget, but I was like, you know, what do I have to ask for this thing to know that it won't sell? And when I first penciled it all out, I said $26,000. And he said, you know what, Ed, I think somebody will pay you that for it. I mean, the car looks so cool. We'd already had so many positive comments off of his Instagram and Facebook and everything else. And so I was like, well, surely nobody's gonna pay 29, and I'd feel really stupid asking 30. Well, 3 people were begging me to pay $29,000, even though Bryson had said he didn't really think it was worth that. And I didn't really think it was worth that based on what I could replicate it for, but he's got like a 6-month wait list to do these things. And so I was like, you know what, I mean, I guess I'll just tell all these guys, give me your highest and best offer. And I ended up selling it to a guy in Florida for 32 grand. So more than the whole budget for the whole thing I got for that car. And I was really, really, of all the cars I sold the SLR, I sold the Gallardo Spider, I sold a bunch of stuff. Letting that one go was definitely the hardest. So I had to decide to build another one. And so right now I've got a 2015 Cayenne that he and I are doing in a partnership with Sway. And so that car is sort of becoming the new and improved, or at least newer version of the Car Trek 6 Cayenne. As always, we have to say thank you to Auto Tempest, and in this case, the Ticket Clinic as well, for their sponsorship support of Car Trek 6. The Ticket Clinic can get you out of a ticket no matter where you get it. They're a nationwide law firm that you can literally just take a picture of your ticket and text it to 305-305, and their lawyers will get to work and start working on it. They've helped me out of a bunch of tickets. They helped the Car Wizard out. They helped Freddie out. They're our go-to people whenever we get a ticket. Also, Auto Tempest has supported us through all of this, and we cannot thank them enough. Their motto is all the cars, one search, and they make it easier than ever to find your dream car. So please, right now, click on their link in the description below to check them out and find your next car.